fam, this is Kevin Duhart with the Yellow Tape Podcast, thin line between Christ and culture. Let's get into it.
I think educating the public could help on why you think it's necessary to include the Bible in the classroom and making it a part of the curriculum. That's what I mean by revelation, like revealing to people why this is going to benefit. And statistically speaking, we would only have to use the 1950s, 40s, and maybe further back on how it may have benefited culture at the time. I don't know. I know how it benefits as a believer, but in the classroom, we really don't have that type of, we don't have those, we don't have the tangible proof of anything, you know what I'm saying? Because it was so long ago. But I think if they would explain why, and what we expect the benefits to be, and how can this benefit the culture? I see how it could benefit, but if I am a Muslim, right? I'm a Muslim. I believe in one of the Abrahamic religions, but I don't subscribe to Christianity. I subscribe to Islam, and my son reads from the Quran. Now, I do think it's right for every Muslim to know the Bible, and a lot of them do, believe it or not, because it's an Abrahamic book. But Christians are like anti the Quran, because in especially if you come from an evangelical community or even a charismatic Pentecostal expression, that book is demonic. Not even just to be familiar with what other people believe so that you could be sensitive to their belief systems, or finding ways that you can even include your belief system into their belief systems. Does that make sense? Finding ways to meet them where they are. But that's the question. Like, if my son is, I want to make sure that I control how he sees this particular book. So I think revealing or having honest dialogue. Hey, we're passing this law. We did this because we feel this, and this is our expectation from this, right? And I think also it should be an option. I don't know if it should be mandated. I don't think I believe that. Yeah. I do think it would be fair. It would be fair. And as a believer, I'm saying that would be fair. And I think, well, you as a Christian, you should not even consider another religion as far as introducing your family to it. This is why I think you run the risk of somebody being able to advocate for Buddhism to be taught. If you're going to teach everything, that's a religion of peace, quote unquote. It's enlightenment. Then why don't we all numb your whole brain think, let's bring all of our kids into this moment, right? So I think when you start mandating one faith and alienating other faiths, you run the risk of, you may temporarily be teaching the Bible, but what if another person wanted to bring their faith into that context? Then, what does that look like? My kids have to learn the scripture. I wonder if we do the due diligence of aiding, and I hate to use the phrase, the devil, but it's what it is, but aiding the enemy, aiding the devil in the context of making people hate Christianity. Because we're legislating our laws, our beliefs without winning your heart, we're legislating it over you. I can see that being a major turnoff. It's not all believers. It's not all of us, but it's just where we are. It's a really strange conversation, because on one hand, you're like, go Jesus, go the Bible in school. But on the other hand, you're like, ooh, well, some people may actually hate us for this, and I don't want you to hate my Christ. I'm like, he's like freaking amazing. I don't want you to hate him because somebody else is legislating, as the guy said in Oklahoma, teach the Bible or else. I think that was the phrase, teach the Bible or else, something like that. Yeah, teach the Bible or suffer consequences. Like, you can't do that, bro. Like, what is that? It feels like real deep state-ish. My thing is, hey, make it an option like Texas did. If your kid wants this class, bet. Take the class. Now we got to make sure we vet those that are teaching it. Because, if you put a philosopher in there, a philosophy instructor, one who teaches philosophy on a college campus, but he starts teaching in high school, the Bible, he's going to have them questioning the entire text. Now, do y'all really believe that a whale swallowed a man? Y'all, come on, this is all allegory. You never know. Like, do you really believe that Jesus spat on a man's face? No. What happened was I seen a guy on social media not too long ago. He was actually trying to break down, he acted like it was not real, that it was all figurative speech. First of all, it was the dumbest breakdown I ever seen in my life. And if you watch this, God bless you for your courage. But that was the craziest breakdown ever. I definitely need to have a conversation about false doctrine and the foolery that comes along with with, with church. But anyway, separation church and state was all about them trying to keep us out, or them trying to make sure, rather, that they did not encroach in the church's affairs. That whatever things we decide to do within the church context, we could do it without government revenge or government encroachment. So I think it was a wonderful idea in this Genesis. And then over time, it became, y'all stay out of this unless we need your votes. You know what I mean? And then even with the Democratic, because I know we spent a lot of time talking about the right, but let's talk about the left for a couple seconds. You got a Christian left. A Christian left that left Christianity is wild. It seems like that, Like I think especially people of my hue, right? I love us, and I love us for real. Y'all know I love us, man. I'm an advocate for Black people because we don't have enough. But some of the things that we were championing, I think people were upset because they couldn't understand why people had certain frame of minds. Again, I'm not saying, I think all of this stuff is crazy and wicked. I think both, especially both candidates that were up for us to choose from, I thought both were crazy. We know that one convicted felon, you know what I'm saying? Womanizer, was bankrupt so many times, was in, yeah, just a lot, you know what I mean? Yeah, just a lot, a crazy guy, and says anything, definitely misogynistic in some of the things he says. I know this generation has a lot of phrases, xenophobia and all that kind of stuff. He was telling people they were eating the cats and dogs, They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating cats, they're eating dogs, they're eating rats, they're eating gerbils. There was just so much going on. Oh yeah. It's like a hidden talent. I can do a little Trump. They're eating the dogs, they're eating cats. It's very, very bad, very bad, very bad. It's very, very bad. Very bad. Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe. Sleepy Joe's very bad. He's very bad. Very bad for America. And then on the other hand, you had Kamala Harris, who, oh Lord, don't kill me, Black people, looked like she was under the influence a lot. Like, I thought she either vaped or definitely, I shouldn't say it's like this. This is not Pastor Duhart talking. This is Kevin Duhart in yellow tape. I'm a Christian. But she seemed like a cabaret singer. Come on, everybody, let's, it was like, I don't know, I just wasn't believable. So as a believer, trying to really put my stamp behind either one was wild to me. Sometimes the choice is very clear. And in this case, for many, it is as it pertains to convicted felon, non-convicted felon, right? But I think it all boiled down to foreign national security. People want to know, who do I want to make the world feel like we will do something to you if you keep messing with us, right? Or keeping the border safe, even for that. I think Kamala Harris, who I think is a beautiful sister, Kamala Harris is like, hey, I'm the border czar. But when you say things like, I haven't been to the border, yo, that's no bueno. I live in a military city in San Antonio, primarily. I'm in between San Antonio and A-South. So, but primarily my primary residence is here. This is the military USA. And so when you talk about foreign security or the border, that's going to impact us both down here. We're like, I'm 4 hours or 5 hours from Nuevo Laredo, something like that. We could be over the border, chilling over Mexico in like 5 hours from where I'm at. So as it pertains to illegals coming over, that's a normalcy. And I don't always see it, but it's a normalcy. And they come through our corridors, 35 and I-10, which is running you to Houston or other parts of the country, Florida even. That was a big deal. So I think for people down south, that was something that people worried about. Is, hey, you've been the borders off for 3 years. You haven't done anything to secure the borders. What are we doing? This guy wants to I guess finish his wall. I don't know. They're taking black jobs. People are like, what's a black job? But here's the other part for men of color, specifically black men or Hispanic men who have a criminal record. If you have a felony on your record for something bogus like smoking weed when you was 18 or 19, that's another law that needs to shift. Because I think sending people to prison for years, if you went to prison for smoking weed, I really think you should be at home with your family, especially when you legalizing it. Like, let these brothers out. That's insane. I'm not advocating for weed, but I do think that that's a petty crime. It's kind of like the crack epidemic in the 1980s. That if you went to jail, if you had the powder, which is cocaine, which ain't nothing but broken down crack rock. It's the same ghetto crack rock that hit our communities. I don't want to say too much. Shout out to the government, though. They hit our communities with crack. You get the powdery substance, you did less time. Or you went to rehab. You went to a cocaine farm and got over snorting. Went back to your family, but a black dude or a Hispanic dude ended up in prison with the same powdery substance. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. One was solid, one was not. Now, the distribution of it, yes. Yeah, you selling drugs, go to jail. For real, it's only right. You know what? I think people do underestimate that those who sold drugs provided a lot of perks to their families. Like, they were really like family people. As a pastor, you get a chance to meet members of your church who did time and who got out, been reformed, and they'll tell you the stories about what was being smuggled in and what they did not lack just because they were inside. It's true. It's true. Yeah, criminalizing, I think addiction is hard. You got a person who is on crack and literally struggling, and you're like, yeah, let me send you to the pen. That's going to fix you. A person who was on, hooked on any drug, you know what I mean? Heroin, whatever that looks like, you definitely need to be somewhere where you can dry out and get to your right mind. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I was saying something though. I was talking about, no, it's okay. It was a good rabbit trail to go down. When I was working in, because I wasn't always full-time ministry, I was working in corporate America. I loved corporate America. I worked for a banking company. I won't say the name of it. But this particular bank was the most conservative bank in Texas, actually one of the most conservative banks in the nation. Very lucrative bank. And when I was there, we were killing. And I happened to be, I served underneath the president of a new department called the Department of Leasing. Our bank, even though very conservative, we had just started what they do with commercial leasing. And so a lot of your gyms here locally, not the restaurant, but actual local gyms, I won't say the name of the gym. Well, yeah, I can say Planet Fitness and people like that. I did a lot of their deals for them. And so we had one client who lived in Houston, Texas. He had a fleet of limousines and he was of Arab descent. And he was a Muslim, but he was a good brother, man. He was a really nice guy. I won't say his name because people might look him up. He's still in business. And wealthy guy. Gotta have a fleet of limousines. And at that time, the Chrysler limousines were like the Chrysler 300. They had the stretches. Oh, he was killing them. And for prom, we were out there loaded up. This is before Instagram really blew up. Oh man, his pictures were crazy. So I did one of his deals, and he was calling me trying to get the deal finished. And my boss, she was a conservative. She had picked up the phone, and his name was, he has a name that's, I think it's an Islamic name. And she said, Kevin? I said, yes, ma'am. She's like, on line 1, you got insert name waiting on you. She got tired of saying his name, so she started calling him, you got Obama on. Obama's waiting for you. Barack Obama's on the phone. because he was president at the time. I was like, what is going on with these people? It was like the Twilight Zone. For the 2-3 years I worked with her, President Obama was the president, and every day she had Sean Hannity on, Rush Limbaugh, and they were, and these are Christians. And I was, anyway. So with the left, it got so wild this time. You're talking about people saying that it's okay, like Gavin Newsom, the governor out of California, they passed a law that said, hey, if your child wants to go to school and identify as anything other than their assigned gender at birth, they can do that. I did good. They can do that, and the teacher is not allowed to tell the parent. So little Bobby goes to school, but when he goes to school, he changes clothes to become Susie. And mom and dad cannot know that son is practicing an alternative identity at school. And it's by law. If a teacher tells, they'll lose their job. That was passed. Like, that's a real law right now. Like in Tim Walz's state, they were okay with reassigning gender to human beings, I guess, through gender reassignment surgery. And I guess this is something that, as a believer, I think many believers were tense. At least the conversations I've had with believers all across, even across the nation, they were tight with, I don't know about that part, if I can okay that. Because if I okay that by voting for this platform, that's something I know that platform supports. And people say, it shouldn't matter what a person does. It shouldn't matter. But again, if you're giving the opportunity to speak to it, you're asked to participate. Do you go against your interests? If that's not, you know what I'm saying? That's the tension I think we're going to live with as believers who participate in politics. Some people say, vote the Bible. Well, I can't vote the Bible because the Bible's up. Well, I guess you can vote the Bible now in Oklahoma, in Texas, Louisiana. What do you do when you walk in the classroom in Louisiana and you're like an Indian? Like you're from India. Like you have a Hindu belief system, and thou shalt have no other gods before me. That in context is talking about Yahweh, talking about our God, right? Yeah, like what do you, wow. You know what I mean? Or do you just take those 10 commandments? Because they're not harmful. It really isn't. So if you are a Hindu and you worship, there's a lot of different deities within the Hindu religion. There's a lot. Speaking of separation of church and state with the Hindus, I know this is off subject, but I was watching a documentary about how they even started India. And I was so frustrated with that because, again, Great Britain, shout out to GB, came to India, colonized the Indians. And when they left it, they started a war between the Muslims and the Hindus. This is around the time of Gandhi. Mohandas Gandhi was still alive. And a guy by the name of, what's his name? Not Nehru. Nehru was a contemporary of Mohandas Gandhi, but his name was he was the leader of the Muslims. I can't think of his name. Look up, if you get a chance. Look up the name of the Pakistan leader, and then put in Pakistan leader, and then put in Gandhi. That'll probably trigger it for you. I don't know if his name was Jetson or Zin. I can't think of his name right now. But anyway, while y'all looking that up, he was a prime minister, I think. No, it wasn't the same. What's his name? No, just type in Muslim leader and then type in Gandhi. Or Muslim Indian leader and type in Gandhi. That might be a trigger. That might put his name up. He wore the hats on his head. Dark Jinnah. That's his name, Jinnah. I know it's something like that. Jinnah. So Jinnah was the leader of the Muslims at that time. He became the Indian Muslims. And so in order to keep them together, or in order to cause peace, or which actually the GB started the tension between the two, Great Britain did. Winston Churchill sends the last representative over there, and they split India in half. So if you were Hindu, you stayed in India. And if you were Muslim, you moved to a new state they called Pakistan. And so some had Hindu believing family members, and some had Muslim believing family members. They split them in half. So there were certain families that were completely split based upon religion. That's what happens when the state encroaches into the state of the religious affairs. You see what I'm saying? And that created a whole country, 2 whole countries. So there are cousins, distant cousins now, direct bloodlines that will never be re-engaged because of this separation of this whole continent. I know. But that speaks to where the state encroaches upon religious affairs. You know, they were doing just fine until GB showed up. So it does speak to, and GB is code for Great Britain. It does speak to some degree to the impact, I think, of the westernization of the world, and even the westernization of Christianity. That's a whole nother conversation, because there are a lot of things we believe because Western Christianity taught us that, but then it may be antithetical to the scriptures, right? Yeah. I had an argument with a guy. Well, he had an argument with me. I just listened. He was like, because, don't argue with a fool. I heard somebody say something the other day that was so powerful. They said, my mama, it was a movie, I think. They said, my grandma told me, don't argue with a dummy. Let them be dumb by themselves. Like, just let them do that by themselves. Because you can't change the mind of a fool. And he was arguing with me. Well, Christianity is a white man's religion. Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, man, to be so Afrocentric, right? You didn't know that Christianity was in Africa before it got to Europe. You didn't know that, man. You knew that. You didn't know that. Did you really not know that? So, Jesus doesn't start with a J. You ever heard of transliteration? In Spanish, it's Jesus. Bro, come on, man. Let's do better than that. I'm thinking about anything else I want to say about separation of church and state. I think that's it.
Thank you for tuning in to the Yellow Tape Podcast. You can find us literally everywhere at Kevin Duhart on all social media platforms. I look forward to your support. Make sure you like, subscribe, and to share. Make sure you share this with as many people you think could benefit from these conversations. Again, thank you for supporting the Yellow Tape Podcast. I'm Kevin Duhart, and I'll see you soon.